Hi, good evening. Thanks for coming to INCA. For those of you who haven't been here before, this is an artist fun space, and we do art shows, and we also do lectures.
Hi, you guys. I'm really grateful that you are all here, and many thanks to INCA, and also to Tommy and Matt and Rose for inviting me. My name's Gretchen Bennett, and I wanted to show you some images and read you a personal essay. This evening, I've been writing in order to, I've been filtering the concerns of my studio through writing, and some of the concerns include how maybe smaller stories can contribute to a larger historic record, and even make it more inclusive, or certainly, in my case, more poetic and idiosyncratic. This is my first essay. Listen to me, I can feel I'm nervous. I'm going to read my first essay. I've been studying the personal essay form at Hugo Haas. I really recommend it. And in actually doing it, let's see, the class I took ended 5 months ago, and I now have my first personal essay to workshop. So thanks for being my listeners. Here goes. The essay is called Here is 1972. A few months ago, I received a collection of 35mm slides from a 1972 family trip. As I go through the 11 carousels of color slides taken by my father, I see myself but don't remember. I wonder if our memories are meeting, or if these images will erase my memories of that trip. In 1972, my father won a science grant, and we went to live in Bratislava, Czechoslovakia for 7 months, and Iași, Romania for 1 month, cutting across Western Europe before and after. The east was gray, the west was brighter. It was while on this trip that I first encountered layers of history, both felt and told, to be read everywhere, and these encounters helped to form my cultural and creative sensibilities. I revisit this trip in order to encounter the 1970s younger versions of a family of 5, to find us. I am humming to Me and Mrs. Jones in the back seat of a 1972 two-door Aqua Volvo sedan. I am on the verge of adulthood then, and I experience a similar growth period now, just when I enter premenopause. I did not quite have my period then, and I do not quite have it now. The concerns of my adolescence have returned. I'm tethered to places in my past where I grew up fast and was enriched. The time in between then and now is bracketed by the helpfulness of both construction and deconstruction on the road to self. Writer Rivka Galchen describes baby bears born like dough, and their mothers lick them into shape. I dreamt thick blood was running from my body, and I was licked right back out of shape. Things are plumb. My Czechoslovakia, with its history and language, is not real or fixed, and I have no claim on it, but I remain connected to the time 4 years after the Soviet Union took control of the country, and 3 years after Czech student Jan Palach lit himself on fire as a political protest against the 1968 invasion of Czechoslovakia. His body flamed. At the Portland International Airport, my flower-powered pinkish canvas suitcases were opened and checked before boarding. Friends came to say goodbye. We landed in Sweden and slept above traffic sounds. We ate continental breakfast, took a taxi to another airport, got a car with a sticker, See Europe by Volvo, and we saw a great deal of Europe. A backpack is floating fast down a river, which may not be a backpack at all. No one else in the car says anything as a small group of people outside of the car runs fast along a high bank to follow bobbing orange, not as fast as the water below. We keep going, and I don't know if anyone else has seen this spectacle. I don't remember saying anything. Enter the Volvo. Unable to fully remember our car, I think of Maggie Nelson's recitation of blue and the term acyanolepsia, a non-perception of blue. It was a light turquoise blue, not too in-depth, like a navy blue. It was a pale blue brick with a squared-off body. An online search reveals that our 1972 Volvo was probably an automatic with a fuel-injected engine. It had a dark blue vinyl dashboard, fabric seats, rubber door strips, and orange semaphores on either side. The car may have seemed like it had one cohesive culture inside, but we observed and processed in 5 different ways, traveling across a new continent while listening to pop songs from various charts, coming together over heaven weather, new beds, and hunger. We pay a few crowns outside public restrooms for a few triangles of toilet paper. At one point, towards the end of our trip, we walk hours through Paris, and then, after resting on church steps, we wander off in different directions, and then slowly move back together. We get lunch. There's a car full of a family that has just had an argument during a very long road trip. There is a space between us in this draining well of our collective experience and the mandatory dispersal of our individual understandings of this experience. At some point, we are lost, and a man helps us find our way out of a strange town by getting into our car and sitting on our laps. He asks us to leave him on the outskirts of town, and we do this. Are we singing? Are we there yet? I want to just pause for a minute and point out that this visual presentation is, while not in sync on purpose, is a companion to this reading. Pop songs held us in place as we hurtled through Europe, pulling our geographic. We entered Rome, and I am listening to Paul Simon's song Kodachrome. It recalls a brand of color film that makes all the world a sunny day. I saw rain and streets and white architecture from inside of Simon's pop song, Tripping. We reach Bratislava, Czechoslovakia in early autumn and leave again in the middle of spring. Our new landlord had once been a member of the Reformed Communist Party, now demoted to a non-person status by the current government. He seemed tired. He was kind. His daughter was between me and my older sister in age, and we were friends. His wife worked, and a son rarely came out of his room. There was a black and tan terrier who got hit by a car during our stay. There was a new prefabricated apartment building and smaller houses all around. I sit behind my husband on the plane and I ask him a question from between the seats. He reminds me that we will sit together on the way home, and we do, in the last row of the plane near the bathroom. We're moving backwards to his childhood home in Baltimore. I want to stretch. He is reading science fiction. In his novels, W.G. Sebald meditates on the power of memory and its role in the creation, transformation, and destruction of identity. The text of his novel Austerlitz is scattered with grainy black and white photographs without captions, making them seem suspended between the recent and distant past. My inherited color slide record pushes into the nearly present, alive, like being there. How do I tell this story? I'm torn between 2 compelling forms. For his documentary film, as I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty. Filmmaker Jonas Mekas compiled home movies, stringing them together by chance, the way he found them on the shelf. I'm struck by the inner logic of a critical piece of writing by Kafka, in which he describes a novel's framework as having a beginning, middle, and end. The beginning holds no emotion, allowing the reader naivete, and in turn, allows them to see the author's weakness from the beginning. Sudden change is depicted in the midst of a permanent situation. We are aware of the body in motion. We know the author writes from a distance. There are 2 works, one from early and one from later, and they meet. The author writes the characters on and off the page, in and out of love. Later, the story destroys itself, so we travel back to the summary part of the story and to the heroine, whose name is Gretchen. I'm leaning towards the Mekas construction of order. I keep my father's selection of images intact while making another selection from inside of that one, moving toward that place where the familiar and the strange meet. A few months ago, I met my older sister at our parents' house to go through old things. I work in the garage, and when I come back into the house, a group of tall sunflowers has become compost. Also cleared out are birdseed, spices, not even salt, garbage, recycling, the newspaper is canceled, and the telephone disconnected. The cat is gone. The next time I return, the beds and appliances are gone, and all that are left are dismantled bird feeders and Subway sandwiches. I return from my honeymoon to find 3 pieces of paper with notes and phone numbers, and the top note has my name on it, which I keep. I navigate through a broken sequence of fragments, through waste, scrolling in horizontal, like Ulysses and Odysseus. In 2010, I moved into the house I now share with my husband. Inside the house, I have the feeling I'm inside of a capsule, and I could be anywhere. It is the opposite with Bolshevik-era Slovak housing. Each living unit looks the same, stacked inside blank concrete paneled buildings. But each unit is made different, a home, according to the individual occupant's sensibilities. A multiverse inside of a prefabricated universe. The literary theorist Roland Barthes presents photography as being outside the codes of language or culture, acting on the body as much as on the mind, and rendering death and loss more acutely than any other medium. He experiences the photographed body as being entrapped, and he makes himself another body to escape. I see how I've been shaped by interruptions, being stopped for a moment. I smash my knee, my mother falls ill, my body recreates itself, letting go of this broken trail. Photography can bear witness to the ways of life and events of the world, but the photographic record of our family trip through Western Europe and to a Bolshevik country are focused inward. Though they take in architecture, including well-known landmarks, they show nothing new. At a viewpoint above Bratislava, my mother and I are blurry. The viewed object would be the thing in focus if we could see it. I recognize myself by my fuzzy posture, leaning into her, laughing. I've kept this year in a narrow interior compartment in my mind and in my body, where I remember I ate bread with bugs baked into it, picking out those parts. I came to a new place in an unusual car. Burning brown coal was everywhere, smelling like heroism and profanity. I was homeschooled. Here's where my sensibilities and creative life formed. Here I metabolize, to reclaim something and to live it for real. I have no space for antidote. Nabokov claims he erased his memory with his stories. Retracing this part of my life with the odd mapping device of a collection of color slides is like navigating by lost landmarks. The moment of finding the path neutralizes it. Moments stay for a sentence or a page before ruining themselves. Traveling through a strange town once, a man climbed into our car. He must have sat on our laps and showed us to the outskirts of town, where we would continue our journey, and we left him there at his request. My nephew and I are on the Oregon coast. He leaves early, and I direct him out of town by leading in my car. I stop at the mouth of the Wilson River, and he continues. I phone my younger sister to say he is on his way. When she picks up, I say something, but it comes out only as an animal sound. In 1995, I received a grant to study art in Prague. I remember walking back to my rent-controlled apartment in the Little Quarter, over the Charles Bridge, where large bodies loomed to either side, oversized and made of stone. I had cramps. I was hungry. If I forget songs from 1972, they are public knowledge and easy to find. Heart of Gold, Play Me, The World is Black, The World is White, Burning Love, Me and Mrs. Jones, If Loving You is Wrong, Speak to the Sky, The Candyman, Crimson and Clover, I've Got Pieces of April, It's a Morning in May, Maggie May, Lean on Me, Kentucky Rain, Yellow Ribbon, Ako Semash, Ahoy, On the Cover of the Rolling Stone, War, Oh It's So Nice to Be With You, The Robert E. Lee, Theme from Tommy, Ode to Joy, Mommy Blue, You're So Vain, Eau Claire, Zustan Aspondova Notes, Crocodile Rock, Oh Sole Sole, I Can't Live If Living Is Without You, I Love You Too Much to Ever Start Liking You, My Ding-a-ling, Until You Use Me Up, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, Lay Lady Lay, Alone Again Naturally, Horse with No Name, Kodachrome, It Gives Me the Nice Bright Colors, Gives Me a Green of Summer, Makes Me Think All the World's a Sunny Day, I've Got a Nikon Camera, I Love to Take It for a Ride, Mama Don't Take My Kodachrome Away. Charlotte Cotton talks about the capacity of photoconceptualism to dislodge the surface of everyday life through simple acts, the inscribing of cultural and political meaning into the human body, the chance that a banal disruption in depictions of daily life also becomes a kind of disruption for the viewer, causing them to stop for a moment and contemplate. I find a blue Post-it note. Be right back, went to pick up Buster, Mom. I find another note with just my name on it, but I didn't write it. I'm in someone else's mind, but I'm not there. It's just my name, floating. This cache of color slides from my father does answer to the contemporary art photography description by Cotton, of remaining out of the hub of action and arriving after the decisive moment, like the Prague Spring, the Munich Olympic Games hostage situation, the Richard Nixon landslide election. representing what has been left behind in the wake of world events, or creating an understanding of being to the side of something, or passing by even as an event is just that moment unfolding, like Watergate or Angela Davis being released from prison. But there's no qualifying perspective or large format equipment signaling a slowing down of image. There are just mostly us, next to any number of ruins, roadside shrines, cathedrals, go-karts, vistas, and monuments. There is only the depiction of a family together with a small focus imagery and a non-art 35mm camera and its slide output. But at the very least, there's also the depiction of a new kind of everyday for my family inside of the revolution of my father's slide carousels. And though my father frames my mother tightly on the shores of a lake, you can still understand the magnitude of the mountains circling the lake, the late May foliage, the light, the lake depth. Her shoes, bag, polyester slacks, and hair are red on the edge of a lake. Gretchen of 1972 is flotsam and jetsam now. I return to process that trip and I find her outline, but she's floating either above or below me. Once a man showed us the way. I don't remember how we found him. We must have pulled over and asked him for directions. He got into our car. We left him on the edge of town, and everywhere was aqua blue. Thank you. I'm happy to have a discussion around this or hear your thoughts or just hang out with you.
Gretchen, I really appreciate the work that you've done in putting this together, and it was really a pleasure to both look at the visuals and hear your essay. I share a kind of an interest in this time in my life where I'm reflecting back on my earlier experiences and how that has formed me, as well as the image record that has been part of my life and part of the ways that I think about and see the world. And I really appreciate in particular, the way that you use the poetic elements of your writing to have this sort of recycling of things, of motifs that run through the writing, that give you that feeling like you're falling in and out of time, in and out of sync, or that images are coming in and out of focus, these kinds of things that have to do with the way that we remember things. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. It was beautiful.
Thanks, Alexander. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think a lot about form and how to show form, and falling in and out or over and under is where I am right now, so far.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And I also really appreciate the fact that I'm remembering that you have a background that is, I don't know what to call it. You're American in Europe.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling for language around what that is and what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I think that if I could restructure language, I could ameliorate any 12-year-old imperialistic thoughts I had at the time, just for instance.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a healing project.
Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
I'm really interested in unraveling personal history in order to unpack received wisdom.
Yeah.
And I think maybe writing, as I grow to understand it, will become a way to be more explicit and still poetic, even though I'm normally visual arts maker.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, it's interesting, the relation between the visual world and the written world and the different ways that we can get at those things that we try to get at through this different medium.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really, I am excited that you're writing, and I'm curious to see kind of where that's going to take you in terms of your understanding of that, but also to hear more of or read more of the writing as it comes out of that process.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Gretchen, I have like 2 questions. One is like, it was a beautiful piece and I really enjoyed the writing.
Thank
It was
you.
so interesting to see. It was kind of like your working fragments. But my question was, the tragedies, how important, or where do they live in your work? These tragedies that you're interested in. For example, the person who burned himself in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, good question. You know, I think of things through monuments and that kind of remembrance. For instance, when I went back in 1995 on a grant, I studied at the Prague Academy of Art, Architecture and Design, which is on Jan Palachka Square. And so it's almost because it becomes commemorated, it can become less than or more normalized. And as I wrote this, it's like a clearing process, or almost a detox process to wake up and realize the impact of a moment like that is so not possible to normalize. And yeah, I don't know the larger, that's such a big idea for me that I have the same question that you do. Yeah. And also when I think of individual tragedies, you know, like my parents are absent from this writing, and that's how I try to talk about them. But I could, I could bring those more to the forefront. It just didn't, it seemed like they should live in the text by their absence and by the slide collection that they provided posthumously. But these are important questions for me as they come up. Yeah, how to talk about tragedy when it's also sometimes it's the everyday, not with Yom Kippur, but sometimes it is considered a normalized part of a life. Yeah.
Do you want to give us a background about those slides?
Sure. So these are all from my father's point of view, and a lot of times I have a younger sister and an older sister on my mother, so we show up in it. My father doesn't, because he is the point of view, and they take place. I picked out a very select number. For instance, this one, when I saw it, it really arrested me. I really realized it said something about my relationship to my mother, and I still, my husband pointed out, I still have that same posture and just think, isn't it amazing all this information that's coming towards us? And it's funny, you know, and I lean in, like, yeah, I can see the shape of me happening in that blur. So I picked out things that felt strange and familiar at the same time, and they were strange. Like, I knew that this archive existed, or yeah, archive is a funny word to use, but I knew this collection existed in the abstract because I was there with my father and his camera, but when I actually had them in my possession and actually saw them, it was, the ones that stopped me, I just immediately photographed them and re-presented them as photographs. And I largely don't remember specific moments that I'm there, but I don't remember those moments, and that's a really interesting experience.
So these are photographs of slide projection?
Yeah, and they're projected on the 1973 state-of-the-art screen that my father got to go and talk to schools about our trip. Or yeah.
direct some of the photographs? Or?
You mean, did he say, could you go stand over there?
Yeah.
Yes, constantly. And at some point, I asked him not to ask me anymore. So and now I live with that too, that I'm not in a lot of the photos, because by the time I turned 13 and we were on our return trip, I decided I don't want to be your scale model. I'm taking my own photos and I don't want people in them. And so, yeah, I don't know how important that fact is, but the things float up that are weighty and not, yeah. And I archive things almost compulsively, and so it's nice to know where that came from. Yeah, I mean, I don't archive them. I snapshot them. I like, Instagram was made for me, yeah.
So you took photos as well, I'm not sure.
I did. They're mostly print with those round corners, you know, the square ones. Yeah.
How many photographs did you select from?
So I selected about 18 slides from, there's 11 carousels, and some of them are full. And then there's a box that I kept like the core ones that spoke to me in a box, but I haven't gone back to look at them. It's kind of a lot to uncover, yeah. And in some ways, selecting these felt like it could be random, or I could just bring out 18 in the order that he took them. But I wanted to start, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Did you get any sense that from some of the photographs that they were important to him, that you're aware of your connection to particular ones, but is there a sense from looking at some of them that, oh, this must be something that he was...
Yes, and where I feel that is in some of them, he composed them so beautifully, whether he meant to or not, that that's the part that is reaching from him to me, that how could he make something so stunning of just my mother on the side of a lake, like it's, and show everything about her when she was 40, you know, like, yeah, how could he possibly even know he was doing that? But I think that's the dialogue I'm having with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, hi Margie.
Hi. I don't know how to phrase this question, but in kind of a weird way.
Okay.
So, bear with me. I really admire that you're, as a visual artist, studying writing, and that then you read your first essay here in front of the public. So now you've done it, so next time will be the first time. But when you were reading it, I was trying to figure out, like, was it all one paragraph, or was it like a whole bunch of short paragraphs? Because it seems like you go from one subject to the next, like stream of consciousness, or like time back and forth, or what other category. So I'm not really a writer, but I'm curious how you're thinking about the structure of the writing, and if that relates to how you think about drawing or other visual aspects of your work.
Yeah, all of those things really resonate with me, all of your questions. And I included the paragraph about the way Jonas Mekas put his experimental film together, and the way Kafka wrote about this novel and laid it out, because I wanted to be transparent about the fact that I'm still figuring out the form. And in a way, I'm just on a car ride, and I'm driving, and I do skip around. I try to locate the reader in the time frame that I'm addressing, but I imagine that this work will resolve itself sometime after this point. There's a time in I'm sure you guys already know this, but I didn't. There's a time in a personal essay class, I took an advanced personal essay class, by the way, with Ruthie, where you workshop your work, and I thought that meant like brainstorming, but it means you bring your work that's already written. So actually, I could do that now. But I'm not sorry. I took that class. I learned so much, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, it would be so great to use the Kafka critical writing form and say, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. Wait, the end's too sad? Let's go back to the middle. Like, that would be great. And that's what I love about Kafka's critical outline of a novel, and that the protagonist's name was Gretchen. Like, is really stunning to see my name on the page of something that I'm not associated with. You don't see the name Gretchen very often. And then about the drawing, I map it out, and I'm very careful about the process. You know, the snapshot, the source photo, printing out the source photo, living with it, and then deciding to translate it in large scale. But once that's underway, it's almost like, it's like Naked Lunch. Like, I can draw in a non-linear way and still come out with the same. In fact, it's almost better because it's a repository for my anxiety or whatever's going on. I leave it in this organic rectangular shape that I got done today with Prismacolor pencils. And writing feels like something else. And yeah, I feel driven to do it, and it's super humbling for all the reasons you just asked me. Yeah. So thanks for that question. And also to present it in a more academic setting, and to be thinking about questions that are appropriate to bring to an academic setting, but to want to be a storyteller doing it is also, I mean, I could have just come here naked, right? That's and I did, yeah. Well, thanks so much, you guys. Really happy that you came, and thank you for listening.